Welcome to Survey and Beyond, the data collection podcast by SurveyCTO. We share expert insights and practical tips on data collection and analysis, discuss innovative methods and tools to enhance data quality and security, and demystify complex data concepts to help people collecting data all around the world. I'm your host, Marta Costa. Joining us today is Mohammad Malik, Managing Partner of researchsolutions and a leader in the field of digital data collection in Pakistan. With a master's in economics from NYU and nearly a decade of experience at IBS, Mohammad has played a key role in implementing innovative data collection workflows, particularly using platforms like SurveyCTO. His work has ranged over governance, education, and human development, with projects conducted across Pakistan. Mohammad also co-teaches a research methods course at LUMS, giving students practical experience in field-based data collection. Today, we will explore how digital tools have transformed research in Pakistan, improving data quality and expanding access to previously hard-to-reach regions. Welcome, Mohammad.
Thank you so much, Marta, for the very kind introduction.
Of course. So, to set the stage of our discussion today, I wanted to learn more about what you normally do, what kind of projects do you conduct. I think that would help our listeners to better understand your experience and your background. If you could briefly describe the projects you usually conduct and the specific tasks your organization does.
So at Research Solutions, we're basically a primary data collection firm. And somehow we've managed to target this niche of development sector. And we've been dealing with a lot of researchers, universities, think tanks, and organizations like World Bank and UN. And what we do is that they give us a project and they need some primary data collection on it. And from deciding sample size to survey design, translation, coding, and finally collecting data and doing a preliminary analysis on what we've collected, these are the stages of the data collection that we provide services on. And finally, the data is given to them, and then we give them a 3-month window if they have any questions about data collection, the data that we've collected for them, and that's about it.
Do you have any specific examples of sectors you usually work on or specific research methodologies, for example?
So we've worked a lot with education. We worked a lot on health and different topics of governance, like political inclusion of women and stuff like that. So it really depends on who is coming to contact us. But somehow the overall niche has been development sector. And now we've started to do a lot more projects on climate and environmental changes. And especially there's a huge problem of smog and air quality in Lahore, Pakistan. So there are a lot more projects on that as well.
And it's a lot about research projects that require longitudinal data collection. Is that right?
That's correct. So we've collected data for like as small as sample size of 50 people to as big as more than 10,000 respondents for a project. And sometimes it's just one touch, like a baseline, and that's it. And sometimes you have to like follow up with them multiple times. So for one project, we went on for like recontacting the respondents for like 4 years. And for some projects, it's just like you contact them once, collect the information, and just say thank you and move on.
And you have been doing this for over a decade, and even before digital data collection. So you have been experiencing the transition from paper-based data collection workflows to digital data collection workflows. So how do you still remember how this shift began?
So it's been 10 years that I've started working, but leading data collection process, I think it's been eight-ish years. So I joined this organization called Ideas, which is a think tank in Lahore, and I started as an RA, research associate, and I also met my partner at Research Solutions over there as well, who was working as a research assistant. Um, and both of us would have like conversations about the struggles we had with paper-based data collection, which included a lot of time being consumed. The fact by the time that you identify the problem, most of the fieldwork has already been completed, and just the lack of monitoring. With those discussions, um, we initially thought it was a capacity constraint on behalf of the third party vendor, but eventually we kind of figured out that we're not using the best practices that are being used around the world. So digital data collection was sort of the answer to all of the problems we were facing at that point in time. The original plan was that we would push our administration to uh, push upon the third party vendor that, listen, you have to shift to this method now. But after facing some resistance, we finally decided that why not do it on our own, because it was very interesting at that point in time. Being young kids at that time, we thought, why not do a startup and do this like ourselves. So Ehsan Tariq, my partner, and myself, we started this company, Research Solutions, at that time. But Ideas was kind enough to sort of offer us a partnership, and they said all the work that they would get and all the primary data collection projects that they would have, they would sort of outsource that to us. So we made another department that we were leading over there called it a survey wing, and for 7 years, 8 years, I did that. And finally, the quantum of work was so big now that we had to uh, reignite Research Solution, and now we're a separate entity and not working under their umbrella.
Wow, big transition. I would love to explore what was the impact then after transitioning to the digital data collection workflow. And maybe we can speak about the different aspects. On data quality, for example, what was the impact in terms of the monitoring, which you already discussed, this idea of real-time monitoring that was not possible before? How was how did the digital data collection enabled you to do that?
Right. So, Marta, we had sort of the first movers advantage in Pakistan. I don't think at that point in time a lot of people or a lot of firms were trying to collect data digitally. So we had a lot of room to play around and figure out, well, what the best practices are and which platform to use and stuff like that. So we messed around with ODK, explored what uh, best front end and back ends are being provided by different platforms. But it was sort of a revolution, to be honest, and we were able to impress a lot of people who were doing paper-based surveys back then, because we were not only able to monitor uh, data collection process better, uh, it was also the fact that we were able to bring down costs a lot, because you don't need all that sort of team. And we have a very lean team of like 6 people now, and we don't require a lot of physical movement. We don't require printing of papers. We don't require distribution. We don't incur extra cost of data entry. So we were also able to pass on those savings to the client, which meant they could do more sample size, achieve greater sample sizes in lesser amount of money. So that was also a huge impact that we could pass on to the clients and researchers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about improving the quality of data, which obviously it's a key aspect, but also bringing down costs, making sure that you could be more productive. Were you also concerned about data security at all at the time?
Yes, so data security at that point in time. So the good part at that point in time, because we worked as research associates, so we had a lot of idea of what academics are worried about. So when we came into the game, we were ready to address all of their problems, and data security was like one of them. So these digital platforms, they offer like encrypted data, and we make sure that the data that is being provided to the researcher or whoever the client is, uh, it is one given to them, which is in an encrypted form. Secondly, at our part, what we do is that we keep it in one computer only. We do not distribute the data to all of the team members. And there's one data lead who also is my partner at Synthetic. So it is in his personal computer and it is there for 60 days. And there's sort of an NDA signed during the contract where we say that we will not disclose this data to anyone. And after 60 days, with the permission of the client or the researcher, we sort of delete the data from all the resources, from the backup, from the hard drive, from the cloud, from the computer, everywhere. But that was also the time after which we say we can't answer any more questions or queries that you might have in future about the data. So, but the data security is much better. But previously with paper-based survey, I didn't know if the data was still with the data entry operator or would he sell it to someone else or whatever. But that's all very safe now.
Mhm. Do you only share the data with the clients at the end of the project, or now that you have a digital workflow, do you share progress? Do you share any data that you are monitoring in real time throughout time?
Mara, I'm really glad you asked this question, because very recently what we've done is we've developed a Power BI based progress tracker. So usually what the questions are from the side of the client, there are how many respondents have been covered, what are the response rates like, or some basic statistics about the key variables of interest. So what we do is like we make 9 to 12 variables which are of interest to the client, and they can track them live. Like at any time, they can click the link and see how much field work has been completed. So most of their questions are sort of uh, they they're satisfied with that progress tracker. But if they want, we can always send them the data, the full form of the data. The only problem is that it requires cleaning, and so we tell them that we'll do it right now, and we'll write the code, and it takes a small amount of time initially to run the code and do the cleaning of the variables. But if that's done one time, all you have to do is run the do file again for every time they ask for it. So it's not that of a problem. It really depends on what they are asking for. If they want it every day, we can give it to them every day. If they want it at the end of the uh, survey, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, yeah. But, it's great that it also enables you to, in the collaboration with your clients. I imagine that it gets easier if you have a conversation with them during data collection and not leave all the concerns and questions for afterwards when you cannot do you can't do a lot at that time.
Yeah, so that's a basic protocol. We do send in an email asking if they have any questions, so they're not surprised at the end, because it's even though we do pre-pilots and pilots, sometimes data can sort of surprise you when it comes from the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about location wise? You were talking about logistics. So, did digital workflows enabled you to reach to more remote locations, or it helped you in any way on that end?
I'll be I'll be very honest and blunt about it. I think we wouldn't have been in this industry if there was still paper-based survey. We were in it because we have some sort of grip on the work we're doing, and that's only because of digital data collection. But it has also helped us to go in far-fetched areas, in remote areas, um, because it's a mixture of technologies that we're using. One, it's digital data collection. Second, we can sort of monitor trainings on Zoom and Riverside and Skype and whatever. And we don't have to send a lot of resources to these areas. We just have to send one supervision manager, and we sort of collaborate the local field researchers who are over there. And there's also sort of they help us sort of evaluate the cultural sensitivities in that area. So we run a pre-pilot with them and take their advice really seriously. So they kind of guide us what works. I remember the norm when there were paper-based surveys, it was usually that each region would have its own kind of firm, and a researcher, if he or she had to do a project in all four provinces, there was a chance that he or she might have to deal with like three or four firms. And I don't think it's the ideal way to go about it, because the medium should be same, the kind of training that's going on should be same, there should be some consistency. So a lot of these technological advances have sort of helped us to reach out to these far-fetched places and get data with the same quality as a researcher would like to have.
Hmm. So currently you have a team of 6, you mentioned. And how does it work with, in terms of human resources, whenever you have a new project? Let's imagine that you have a new project that includes multiple regions in Pakistan. Um, how do you go about it with human resources?
Yeah, so the core team that sits in my office, they are 6 people. Uh, but the field team, that's quite huge, and the only reason we can have a huge team, field team with a very lean core team, is because the grip the digital data collection sort of offers us. Um, what happens is when a project comes in, we usually know how much resource are we going to have. So the quantum of work at this point in time is so much that I can easily say that around 35 to 40 enumerators, they have been employed constantly for past 4 or 5 years, even though they are on contract basis for each project, but they've never been unemployed uh, for past 4 or 5 years, because the quantum of work is so much. Sometimes uh, the field work comes in a very deserted area or somewhere where field work is not being done that much. So you have to kind of uh, revisit the repository that you have, the directory that you have of the people that you worked with, and you reach out to them again and you request them to not take on other projects and do ours. Uh, but the good part is that all of these people, that 90% of the people that we work with have sort of worked with us in the past, and we've trained them on digital data collection. So we're very confident that whenever we reach out to them, and they'll give us some sort of uh, confidence that the data quality would not be compromised.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, based on my experience, building trust with your team of enumerators is key, is quite important. And when using platforms like SurveyCTO, um, man, training them and making sure that they know how to use devices, they know how to use the platform, they know how to um, how to conduct the questionnaire is quite important. So it does seem to that it's clearly an advantage to have that group of enumerators across the country.
Yeah, they're not just trustworthy people. You can say they're extension of my family. They're frank enough to call me at the end of the project and say, "Listen, this was a hard project. We need a treat, and we need to go see a movie, and you have to arrange all of that for us." And they're as blunt, like they can tell me, "Listen, we'll be very uncomfortable if you're around, so leave after the lunch, and we'll see the movie alone." So we do have that sort of trust and relationship going on with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Um, and so, uh, another thing that I would like to explore is that, besides conducting all these data collection projects, you started teaching a course at LUMS in Pakistan about research methods. Is that right? So you are basically teaching new students that are interested in field based data collection, and you are teaching them how to create these digital workflows. So how do you go about a curriculum like this? How do you introduce these digital data collection platforms into that course?
Yeah, so someone who's been a mentor of ours. His name is Dr. Ali Chima, and he's the current vice chancellor of LUMS, the university that we teach in. Um, so randomly, I had a call with him, and I requested him, listen, that there should be a course that where we sort of take students to the actual field. And he got really excited about it because he was also thinking on those lines already. He just said that, listen, just meet and we can discuss this. So we're a team of like 4 or 5 people who teach this course. And what really happens is that we give these students an idea. Like this year around is water quality that we're trying to dive in. um, and they have to design a module around it, and we help them design the questionnaire as well. So during the lectures, we also train them on digital data collection, and where we usually use SurveyCTO. And what we do is train them on SurveyCTO, tell them briefly how we make the questionnaires, how the survey is designed, and then we actually send them to the field and try that they get a hands-on experience of data collection, because these guys are our future research leaders. um, and the challenge that we feel right now is that there's a lot of disconnect between the academia, uh, the academics that are being produced, and the real world that they read books and articles about and eventually start writing papers about. So it's a good opportunity for them to actually experience and meet and see how data collection is done. So they can design better questionnaires, have a better sense of the context, and can lead a better research in future.
Mm. What has been the main challenges you have noticed?
It always starts off as students asking about security concerns, and it always ends up them telling us about the wonderful stories that they got from there, and the how the fieldwork sort of inspired them to explore more ideas. Uh, but it's tough to send these kids into remote areas where they've never been. Um, and we go to the extent of we do this semester every fall, so the weather is good enough for these kids to actually go in the field for like 6 8 hours. And the other problem is that they're also taking other courses, so they're busy during the weekdays. So anyone who signs up for this course, it means that they're going to work on weekends. um, so that's the discussion that they're always having, how their weekends are being being bombarded with work. But we've always had an overwhelming response when they're taking up the course. Uh, the class always fills up on the first day, and we're always getting emails with students requesting that if they can be accommodated. Um, but unfortunately, we can't keep a class of more than 30 students. Um, so that's that.
Yeah, but I feel like this kind of engagement helps a lot in field based data collection. What do you feel are the most important skills for these students to learn? You already mentioned that it's important to understand the context and to understand the field. So I think that's probably one of the top skills they need to learn. Are there others?
So they do require some sort of coding, I would say. So digital data collection platforms, even SurveyCTO, they do allow us a front end survey design um, mechanism. But if you want to make sophisticated surveys, you need to know the back end coding. And to do that, there's some sort of coding that you should be interested in, like how to randomize, how to pre-identify stuff, how to randomize within a household, and all of that stuff. Uh, what modules should appear for a female? What modules would appear for a male? So all of these things, the proper relevancies and constraints, how to monitor, there should be some sense of coding that they should have. But I don't think it's very expert coding that is required. It's very basic coding. So if you can get some sort of experience on that, I think that's a good uh, skill to have.
Mhm. And do you think the coding is also necessary for the data analysis part? From my understanding, you use Stata for data analysis. Is that also important in your course?
Yes, it is. So I was just referring to the data collection part, but if you so the last bit of the course, it what it really requires is that the collected data by the class is given to every student, uh, not for their own group, but the classes collected data is given for the analysis. So what they have to do is do the analysis and write a very brief paper on it. So that obviously is required, and we do encourage them to use softwares like Stata and R. Um, and if someone wants, they can also use Python, etc. Um, but it is good to go beyond Excel.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I was just referencing this because I feel like coding it can be a bit transversal in the sense that if you have the logic in your mind, then it's easier to learn different languages because there are a lot of expressions. If you use both Stata and SurveyCTO, you will see that there are a lot of expressions similar when you build constraint expressions, relevance expressions in SurveyCTO, and how you create those in Stata script. So
That's definitely helpful.
it's a leverage. Um, yeah. Do you have any advice or recommendation for listeners that are now maybe studying to get started in this field of data collection?
Like an advice on how to get into the field.
Yeah, any kind of advice you would like to share, or skills that they want to develop. We already discussed that, but yeah, if they want to get started.
Yeah. Um, so with Pakistan, it's a bit tricky because the research people, the research and development sector, it's a bit of a small sector. What really happens over here is that your good reputation or bad reputation really spreads on word of mouth. Uh, so my only advice is, if you come into this business, just stick to it and keep outperforming till, like, people would come to you and ask for work if you're doing good work, and the word spreads pretty quickly. Um, I think this is the first time in 8 years that we've actively started using social media platforms to tell what we're doing. Uh, but before that, it might sound a little unprofessional, but we never really got time to focus on this, because the quantum of work started to be a lot just via word of mouth. And these people who actually bring in projects, they have their own social network, and if you're doing good work, you'll be recognized, and people will start coming to you. And I think researchers and these guys, they don't really mind sharing their resources with each other. um, so like, now we go to conferences and stuff like that, and I realize that I've already worked with 70-80% of the people who are coming to the conferences in Pakistan. So that's the kind of the clients you get after spending 7-8 years in the field.
Thank you. Looking into the future, are you currently exploring any emerging technologies, or even if not exploring, are you excited about something that's coming to help you in your work?
Marta, we're actually really excited about the new feature that SurveyCTO has introduced, the AI one. So one, the good part about it is that we don't really have to email when we confront a problem. It's usually we ask them, and 90% of the time the problem is solved. But what I'm really, really excited about and really looking forward to is that what we face is like, as a company, we're really obsessed with a quick turnaround time. Like, but what takes when someone gives us a finalized questionnaire, it usually takes us 5 to 7 working days to actually hit the field, because of the translation, because of putting the right relevancies and coding it, and sort of pre-piloting everything. So I was wondering, and I was discussing it with my partner as well, if there could be some mechanism, if if the finalized questionnaire could be submitted with some details to the AI, uh, and it could translate into local language. It's still being done, but the translations are too literal. We with surveys, you need to have a conversational translations. Um, and secondly, if it could develop some sort of skeleton of the coding that is required to make it electronic, and suggest some relevancies, like if the AI sees that there's a question, that this particular questionnaire is only relevant to voters, then it should suggest that the age should not be under 18. Sort of stuff like that. That we have to go through the whole survey, and we have to use our brains and spend a lot of time to make sure there's a logical flow to the survey, and there's minimal human error. If AI could help us, that would save us a lot of time.
That's a great that's great thinking, and I must tell you that we are working on it. This idea of uploading your form definition and being able to really understand the form definition, have some critical thinking, and suggest you, hey, maybe this language is not appropriate for the tone of your questionnaire, or maybe this relevance expression is not the best one. Yeah, that's so important, and we are really working on it because it would be such a helpful tool. In terms of language, I do feel like language is probably one of the most important things when you are conducting surveys. So it's quite tricky because you need to be very cautious, right? You need to be very sensitive in specific cases and adjust. But yeah. Perfect. And so, to as one final question for you, do you have any resources or tools that you would like to recommend?
Resources or tools. So what we really do for like quick fixes is, I'll be very honest, whenever it comes, there's a 90% chance that someone else has also come across a similar problem, and they might have uploaded a video regarding it on YouTube. I do try YouTube as a quick fix. And then they're like, for the FAQs, I think SurveyCTO kind of makes very small, very good videos. It kind of takes care of all the frequently asked questions that a new person might have. There's also courses being offered by SurveyCTO. Then there's blogs on JPAL that are more about the best practices of conducting a primary data collection. They've also done a lot of work on best practices of phone surveys. So that's something that we really used when the COVID happened, and that was a lot of help at that time, because we had to shift from 10% phone surveys and 90% physical surveys to 10% physical surveys and 90% phone surveys. So those 2 years were tough, but those best practices really helped us a lot at that time.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mohammad. It was great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Marta, for having me.
Survey and Beyond, the data collection podcast, is brought to you by SurveyCTO. To find out more about SurveyCTO and how it ensures reliable, secure, and scalable data collection, visit www.surveycto.com. And make sure to search for Survey and Beyond, the data collection podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at SurveyCTO, thanks for listening.